crazy.
Hello. Welcome, my fellow Goy, Kafir, Gaijin, Lawai, children of God. All right, guys. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a while. It's been a while. Anyway, yeah, what can I say? I've well, been bogged down by busy work, life, other projects. Glory be to God in all things. Thankful for these things. But been working on a project, Imagine Reimagine. I kind of put it out there for feedback for a minute. Uh, an earlier version of it, a draft, let's say. Got good feedback, but I just kept at it. We're talking, yeah, over 3 months in the process now, about 4 months now. Wow, going on 4 months working on this. Turns out, not that it's not that much of a surprise to me, but well, first and foremost, I don't have the equipment. I really don't have any formal training when it comes to producing music. Um, Video editing, sure, that kind of thing. Video production, yeah. But the music part, not so much. So there was definitely, or has still continues to be a learning curve there, as well as the vocals. Mm, Karaoke quality voice at best. So that's been a struggle to patch that up. But anyways, it's coming soon. I've been saying that for I don't know, a couple of months now, but it's coming soon. I'm almost there. Just today, as a matter of fact, I had um, I don't know, an epiphany of this one verse that's really been a quagmire. I've really been bogged down. And it's funny, the more I work on it, the more it becomes like quicksand. I'm just the worse it gets. So, but I think I finally got it resolved. It's just now smoothing it out a little more and finishing up the video editing, which is transforming as well. It's become a little bit like the intro that I use. But it's my response. Again, it's my response to the New York dropping of the ball on New Year's Eve and how they love to play John Lennon's Imagine every year for decades, generation after generation. So it's my response to that, to the John Lennon and the like, to the communists, to the Muslims, to the atheists, to the unwitting victims of this conditioning. Trying to bring us back to Christ. At any rate, happy Easter. And for those of the faith, Orthodox Christianity, have a good Holy Week. I'm looking forward to this. So we're in it. I'm not doing my best to be in it, to be honest. Usually I'm at every service. It's at least one service per day. Beautiful thing. For me personally, it starts on Lazarus Saturday, which for us was this past weekend. Pascha is being celebrated this coming weekend. Don't ask me too much about the calendar issues. I know traditionally we were on, well, now we're on the Gregorian calendar, interestingly enough. Anyway, why there's a week off, that's more of a modern um, thing, except for leap year. For some reason, leap year, everyone celebrates Pascha/Easter on the same day. But the rest of the time, Orthodox Christians celebrate um, a week later. So I try not to bog myself too much about the calendar issues, given that we're celebrating things that have already transpired. So I try not to get hung up on that too much. But what is significant, though, is the theology. Who are we praying to? Is it the God of I don't know? So many have fell victim to. Well, there's one God. Well, who else says there's one God, by the way? Isn't the pagan Muslims? But also those that live in the gray area, the Banmetanadistan golden means, balance crowd. They want to be nice. They want to follow the crowd. And have been have been led astray, have been misled to follow this fictional entity, which in essence is very much like Jabulan, the Almighty Architect, God of I don't know. Those people fall prey to feminism and nature worship, saying things like animals are more intelligent than people, animals are better than people. Those people need to look in the mirror, by the way. And so on. It's not a small problem. Now we have Santa Claus, this red character, this holiday of commerce. Red. Why red? Why a red Santa? Santa supplanted Christ for the Nativity, the Christmas tree, the Nativity scene. Gifts, presents, the love of money and things, worldly treasures, over the gift of God, His incarnation, His taking on our form. And now who we are, what should be and is, still is, by the faithful, still is. Those that have preserved the faith, still the most important holiday on the calendar. Pascha. This year, the Jews, with their World War III, have successfully kept the faithful from the Holy Sepulchre. They're not allowing anyone to go enter their sacred place, not even the Christians in Jerusalem. Why do you think that is? I mean, they tried this during the 2020 lockdown, and the international community was not having it. So they backed off and they made a compromise. Yeah, some can go, but only a select few may be blessed. I mean, so these anti-Christian secular Jews, which Zionists idolize, treat them like they're infallible. There's only one without sin, by the way. No, not a Jew. Are keeping us from the holy fire, the holy light. Where's the international community on this? Not even the Christians in Jerusalem. Notice I'm not saying the unholy state of Israel. Why are they keeping us from that? Because they care about Christians? Because they're nice to Christians? If they're nice to Christians in the Holy Sepulchre, why are they giving the Muslim Turks the keys to it? Control over us Christians. They're sweepers. Yet Western mass media continues to slander the Greeks. Three weeks ago, give or take, Iran shot a missile into the still occupied Greek island, Cyprus. Struck a UK installment. Immediately following that, the Muslim Turks further invaded that island. Where's the international community on that? The British said they'll send a Navy warship. 2 weeks passed and nothing. Not even protecting their own presence. Isn't that why they're building military bases in Greece? Allegedly? To protect Greece? Well, they're not even protecting themselves as they encroach on Greece. They're not even protecting themselves. You know who did step in? As usual, lately, in the 20th century, it's always the French first stepping in. Say what you want about them. Say all the jokes. It was the French who came in and said, hey, Turks, you Muslims, I know you're part of NATO, this abomination, but yeah, no, you can't be occupying Greece right after your Muslim buddies send a missile over there. And what does mass media say about that missile? Oh, well, look, it turns out Iran is more powerful. They can send missiles everywhere throughout Europe. No, they're not talking about how Islam just attacked Greece and the like. No. They're making it about something else. And the mother Russians, with their Pavlovian bing in the middle of their liturgy, continue to wag their tongues. It's difficult. This is why I didn't do a stream. It's Holy Week. I was trying to prepare myself during the Great Fast spiritually to focus on Christ, but it's hard. It's hard after all, I've had the rude awakening of realizing that I'm human too. I'm not only susceptible to things, I'm actually even capable of things myself. So here I am today with every intent, every focus. I mean, look, I've got things waiting to be discussed, right? Wanted to talk about religious things, but here I am talking politics. How can you not? How can you not avoid this Zionist, pagan, atheist World War III and all the mass media? I mean, again, that's what I've dedicated my life to, exposing mass media rhetoric. So I've got to speak about it, but I'm going to speak much more depth about it after Holy Week. But let's get refocused, shall we? This tangent was prompted by, well, the thumbnail. It's interesting how the denominations, deviations, Catholics being the first, love to wag their tongues and point fingers about how the Orthodox are pagan. Why? Because they love the Mother of God as much as they do. Because they honor the saints. I mean, Revelations, anyone? Blessed are those who continue to burn incense unto the saints at the end of the days. For those that are Bible only, amongst other things. The thumbnail gives you provides you a stark contrast, the writing on the wall. See for yourself. Come see for yourself. The iconography, which you say is pagan, Giri Layson, versus your idolization of Jews that are secular, anti-Christian, pagan themselves. Judge them by their fruits. Money lovers, isn't that the root of all evil? Or, hey, if you're open-minded, you might even be talking about holy these days, H-O-L-I, holy, throwing paint on each other during the spring. What the hell is that about? Or, of course, you invoke karma. Maybe even do some yoga. Ooh, and if you're really cool, you talk about Kama Sutra. Ooh, with your sexual prowess. Blah. Or everybody is kung fu fighting. Maybe you're a Buddhist. Smoke some Buddha, man. Or, hey, maybe you're lucky. Maybe you knock on some wood. Maybe you have your lucky charms. Every time you see a rainbow, you think about a pot of gold. Booze it up for St. Patrick's Day. Wear green. Alchemist tablet green. And so on. And on and on. Yet, the Orthodox Christians, they're the pagans. Do you know what prejudice means? I should read the definition of prejudice. Look it up yourself. It's basically defamation amidst ignorance. In a nutshell, that's what prejudice means. So for those that go on about how Orthodox Christians are pagan, have they ever attended a service? You guys got that freak, what's his name, Rogers. No, I went to some screwed up seminary, I know. I read some books, I know. Biggest hypocrite of them all. Think about the guy, and literally physically get nauseous. Doesn't get much more hypocritical and asinine than that wolf in sheep's clothing and his www cult following. You're going to hell! Who the hell is he? God? I thought his Bible. Does he know that God judges? God chooses who goes to hell and who goes to heaven? Not Aaron Rodgers or Anthony Rodgers, what the hell his name is? Podunk, asinine cult leader. I've got plenty coming. We'll get to that too. And I've warned people. Excuse me. Yeah, choking up. Take that as a sign. Yeah, it's a fine line between warning people about things, these cult leaders, yeah, and, well, wagging your tongue. It's a real fine line. I've been advised to not do that, but I'm advised by someone who is not really walking the greatest of spiritual walk himself. So it's not to mention he's thrown some impediments in my way. Really, and not to mention he's a mother Russian. In other words, a hypocritical bigot, a fascist, a wolf in sheep's clothing. If I'm judging him by his fruits, I mean. So, mm, yeah, I don't know. I'm still praying about it. I'm still contemplating it, but I need some proper guidance on that. But it's hard to not call these evil ones out. It's hard to not call these evil ones out. People need to snap out of it. I mean, how many cults is it going to take for people to stop following these wolves in sheep's clothing, these false prophets that you've been warned about? Easter bunny? What in the hell is that? Easter bunny? Rainbow colored? We all know what that means. Was that a rainbow coalition innovation? The Easter bunny with a magic rainbow colored eggs to go hunting for? Where the hell did that come from? And your holiday, the greatest holiday on the calendar, has been reduced to nothingness. A mere side note. Thank God you have Catholics in the United States. Thank God. They're the ones that still emphasize the significance of not only the crucifixion, but yeah, the resurrection. Even calling Friday Good Friday, the day he was crucified. But they're going to hell because they love the Mother of God so much. Because they love the Mother of God so much, they're going to hell. Yet your secular Jews, your Emperor God Daddy Trump, who doesn't even put his hand on his Bible to swear in for oath, first president in history has done that. He's your savior. But the Orthodox Christians, you're going to hell. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. People, for the love of God, for your sake, snap out of that. Get away from those slimy cult leaders. Pray unceasingly. Keep your news. I've got a couple of readings. The other one, again, the links are in the chat, also in the description for these books. I recommend them wherever I go. People aren't always, anyways, you can't really see it, but Beginning to Pray by Anthony Bloom, the late Anthony Bloom, Metropolitan. I'm Greek, he's Russian. The Russians have been really fascist toward us, but, um, yeah, that needs to stop, really. Speaking of wagging tongues. But, they've produced because Russia has been historically oppressive, they've produced some good saints. Imagine that. Through their own oppression, they've produced some saints. Yeah. Nobody talks about Cyril Methodius in the West, by the way. Same here in Alaska, yeah, but not Cyril Methodius. Wonder why that is. Envy much? Anyway, let me read some couple of passages from Begin to Pray, late Metropolitan Anthony Bloom. And the title, Beginning to Pray, the reason he titled it that, he's saying that wherever you are in life, you're always in that daily state of just learning how to pray or just developing that relationship with God. That's the point of that title. It's not a manual on how to stop praying, but really an in-depth look on your spiritual walk and your relationship with God, that synergy through prayer. And how really we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves. Even if we witness miracles, it means nothing. We're still at that beginner level. We're still beginning to pray just now every single day. And every single day you should be beginning to pray. The way of a pilgrim really emphasizes that. I'm praying unceasingly, Paul says. A brilliant exploration of that. What's that one writing token? Not token, but the screw tape letters. It's kind of like that. It's a bit like that. Now, the author of this, The Way of the Pilgrim, nobody really knows who that is. Recently, someone took claim to it. That's controversial. They didn't even know if it's a real story or fictional story or what, but it's powerful. But anyways, let's look at Beginning to Pray first. Anthony Bloom. This is from a Q&A at the beginning of the book, which I highly recommend you read that too. It's quite powerful. All right, so the question is, your father seems to have been an extraordinary man. Can you remember very much about him? So just so you'll know, a little background about Metropolitan Bloom's father. He was a diplomat, Russian diplomat, traveled all over the place, including India, I believe. He had all kinds of problems. This was around the turn of the 20th century, around the Bolshevik Revolution. So as soon as the Bolshevik Revolution hit, and they are Russian diplomats that are Christian, well, suddenly they have a problem. They can't go back to Russia, and so they become refugees, and they're bouncing around. And in the process, his father becomes a laborman, and they live a humble life. So, just to give you a little backdrop of his upbringing and his father. Bloom says, he's quoting his father now. I remember he said to me after a holiday, quote, I worried about you. And I said, did you think I'd be I'd I'd had an accident? He said that would have meant nothing. Okay. Even if you had been killed. Ouch. That's pretty callous, right? I thought you had lost your integrity. Okay. That's pretty heavy, man. That's a heavy trip, yo. All right. And he continues. Then on another occasion, he said to me, quote, always remember that whether you are alive or dead matters nothing. What matters is what you live for and what you are prepared to die for. Now, let me shoot some praise here. A couple of people I worked with in the past, one was my partner for a while. We had a lot of fun together. Um, Christian apologist, UK. He was supposed to be on Cross and Christian discussion group on Saturday, and then something happened. I don't know what, and they pushed it back to Sunday, Easter Sunday, and he still didn't show up. I don't know what's going on with that. But last time he did that about a year ago, he ended up collapsing. He was in the hospital for a few days. He was unconscious for a while. So hopefully, I mean, the guy's struggling with his health, and I'm not sure where. I haven't heard from him yet. I hope he's well, but I hope he gets to watch this. This is something that I wanted to. He invited me to do a live stream. We're supposed to again do one this Saturday, but we changed to this coming weekend. He wanted to do a live stream before Saturday Eve. Let's say, technically on the calendar, after sunset, the new day begins. So really, it would be Pascha at that point. So before Pascha service, Saturday Eve, he wanted to do a live stream. And this is some of the things that I want to talk to him about. given that just recently he's been taken off the organ donor list, and they're giving him a limited amount of time. We'll see how that goes. I'm still holding out, hoping that he shows up. We could do a live stream, have these discussions together live. So I'll wait for the most part to have these discussions then and speak about him then. There's some things I want to share with you about him and how he exemplifies Christ in quite critical times, including historically even. Even him. You never know. God works in mysterious ways. But it's important to keep this in mind. And it's something that, being a bit of a hypocrite here, I failed to follow through on my own calling because of that ego and because of self-preservation, fearing death. So I yet again turned my back to God, and repeatedly. So my calling, my second calling, after I botched things up with my first calling, being a diaconate, my second calling became to be a leader of the faith, which is kind of vague. What did that mean? And so, having gone back to seminary, being directed to go to Greece, did these things. While I was in Greece, studying theology, doing my thing, and, being vain, if I'm going to be honest, trying to run before I'm even crawling, as they kept warning me to not do, spiritually speaking. Well, my calling came. People from the Patriarchate, the Fanar, which is still under Turkish occupation, thanks to the Jews in the West, UK, US, and the like. They came calling repeatedly, said, hey, come work for us. Now, this is the head of the faith, technically. After Rome fell away, after the papacy, speaking of vanity, Constantinople then took, as second see, took this first place of first see, according to the ecumenical councils. But the mother Russians want to have issue with that, want to proclaim themselves as the sixth see, and therefore the first see, while slandering the Greeks. Hypocritically so. Talk about missing Christianity 101. But anyway, enough of those politics. God have mercy on our souls. So the Patriarchate asked me repeatedly to go work for them. I said no. Why? Because with my mouth, I knew, actually, my parents alone, as the evil Turks are, evil as they are, they would want to harm me, if not kill me. And they do that regularly, FYI. I mean, ask any Turk about what happens outside of a nightclub. Okay. I know everyone wants to call Turkey European, but I got some words for those people too. Anyway, so if it wasn't for the Muslim Turks not killing me, I figured the people at the Fanar would, because I saw them as political. We use the word political now, but had fallen away themselves. I mean, after all, they've been under Turkish occupation, under Turkish yoke, for not going on 5 centuries. Right now, who's been appointed is someone was being called the Green Bishop, which was all nice and fluffy near the end of the 20th century. But these days, in the 21st century, we all know what that means. His stance on the 2020 lockdown, his official letter, or the official letter from the Fanar, either way, was pro-lockdown. Not okay at all. Quite the opposite. So clearly, judging by fruits, it's been compromised. I should have been there. I was invited before the 2020 to go, a couple of years before that. I refused for the sake of self-preservation and ego. I saw them as people being beneath me. But mostly for the sake of self-preservation, because I knew if the Turks didn't kill me, the compromised Orthodox fanar? Probably would. Maybe not. Regardless, as a Christian, as we are reading, and as Christianity 101, if they've done this to me, what else should you expect? Right? If they crucified Christ, well, martyr really just means being a witness for Christ. That's what really martyr means in the Greek. But because of all the pagans and antichrists, it's become to mean being killed for the faith. And I should have been willing. At one point in my life, I was willing. I mean, not that I was seeking death, but I, through and through, with all my being, saw death only merely as a gateway, and that's it. It meant nothing to me. Now, unfortunately, can't make that claim. I'm working on it. I'm working on it to get there through prayer. But, so yeah, when my calling came for the patriarchate, wow, I turned my back on God yet again because I wasn't keeping my noose. I wasn't keeping that spiritual fervor. And again, the way the pilgrim really touches on that. Being in a holy place, doing holy things, doesn't mean you should stop praying to God. You should always have your personal prayer. You should always have your prayer rule. And so I didn't hear the warning yet again. And when my calling came, my ears were closed. My heart was cold, even worried about my own well-being. It doesn't stop there. 2020 lockdown. We're all being put through economic hell, amongst other things, psychological hell, spiritual hell. They're shutting down the churches, the Christian churches worldwide, putting people in prison for continuing the services. They were even arresting the Amish for being Amish in the United States of America, land of the free. So much for the Constitution. So 2020 lockdown. I'm in a financial bind, like so many others. I was already struggling, but who invites me to apply for an instructional designer position? NATO. NATO reaches out to me during this time and invites me to apply for an instructional designer position. Well, still not keeping my noose like I'm supposed to. Second opportunity to be a leader of the faith in quite a critical place, especially what's going on right now. Well, no, NATO's beneath me. I had a good laugh about it even. I was posting it on Facebook back then I was still on Facebook. I was like, man, don't these people read my posts? What are they, stupid? They're actually inviting me to go work at NATO? Don't they know how I feel about war? Well, there goes that opportunity. Okay, well, strike one, strike two. Half a year later, about 6 months later, struggling even more financially. Now who reaches out to me? Again, ask me or inviting me to apply for an instructional designer position for them. Of all the people, the United States Department of Defense invites me, yours truly, to be an instructional designer for them. Like, okay, wait a minute, what's going on here? But still paused. Like, these people are beneath me, these warmongers. Well, that ship sailed too. So the following year, there I am, still destitute, even more so. And now I'm online begging people for money. having other hypocrites tell me, oh, you know how that comes off? Well, yeah. I hope it comes off like someone who's about to die from starvation and seeking help. How else is it supposed to come off? Well, you know that comes off. Meanwhile, they got a merchandise store. Uh, maybe for a woman, they'd have a little more mercy on me. But as a white Christian man, this chick, by the way, wanted to lecture me in a, I don't know, 2 to 3 page email, which I, thanks for the advice and spending your time on that, and I thanked her for that. But seriously, anyway, glory be to God. I got through that winter with the help of family. The following winter, now my family is hating me for being Christian. Not all of them, some of them. Things getting worse. So yet another winter, I'm reaching out for help. Who helps me? Well, D, give the gospel. And, she donated money. I never got the money because of the thieving GoFundMe and the thieving, is it Patreon? PayPal. Patreon is a bit suspect lately too, by the way. I haven't been able to get access to that account. Please, I hope people aren't giving me money there. But those people are crooks too, man. I mean, the crooks on the offset, they're all taking 30%. Yeah, anyways, don't get me started on these vermin. But yeah, I mean, regardless, people, reached out to help. And then Phil. I mean, I even had the Christian apologist, patriotic Christian. Guy has no money. He even gave me it was like $50. Of course, I didn't get it, but thankfully he got his money back. Thankfully, but Dee never got hers back. She gave me $150. She never got it back. GoFundMe never refunded her. Scumbags. And others. Yeah. A fellow who was Daniel, and forgive me for dropping names. If you're getting offended by that, please forgive me. But I really appreciate all these people, and then some, and all the others, and all their support. Daniel was like, I started a Patreon after that, and he was like trying to, again, also struggling financially at that time, but still trying to help me out. But Phil, a guy who's got no money, who's living off the system, got all kinds of medical issues, barely staying alive. He got some kind of economic boost. I don't know what, he didn't get into details, but he was like, okay, man, I got some extra cash. I can help you out. And he allowed me to have my my pride intact, and offered me a job to do some designing stuff for him. So yeah, I can't thank that guy enough. He too, I've seen recently, he's changed his name. Used to be 4 Moments. I don't know, it's some Bible quote now that he's changed his name to. But yeah, he just recently did a video where he's going to hospice, I think. I didn't actually watch it. I just saw the title. But yeah, it's hard, rough times. I mean, again, death is a gateway. It matters nothing whether you're dead or alive. What matters is what you live for and what you're prepared to die for. I mean, these are people literally in their deathbed, giving it everything they got, fighting the good fight with every ounce of their last being. It's inspiring. Paul Sutliff, a year later, that following winter, yet again, third winter, struggling. He hooked me up with a job, video editing, my passion. That was fun while it lasted. But I mean, the guy, it was just took me a lot more effort than I expected. And I was billing him by the hour, and I was doing my best to shave time. And at the end, I stopped charging him. But in addition to that, he wasn't even posting most of my work. So I was like, so I held off, and then he let me know that, hey, you know what, I'm going back to work. I'm getting money. I'm like, oh man, this guy's even having some financial setbacks himself, and he's trying to help me out. Wow. And here I am. Mr. won't go to Patriarchate because they're beneath me, or NATO, or the U.S. Department of Defense. Missed my calling, and now here I am struggling. All right, let's continue beginning to pray. Anthony Bloom. This is on page 8. He says in the question 2, in spite of your father, when did you become a Christian? Was there any particular turning point? So he says it came in several stages. Up to my middle teens, I was an unbeliever and very aggressively anti-church. I knew no God. I wasn't interested and hated everything that connected with the idea of God. Sound familiar? It's the fad these days. So, and he goes, in spite of your father, and then further down, he continues, Anthony Bloom continues and says, I met a priest who must have been about 30. Something about him struck me. He had love to spare for everyone, and his love wasn't conditioned by whether we were good, and it never changed when we were bad. It was an unconditional ability to love. I had never met this in my life before. I had been loved at home, but I found that natural. I had friends too, and that was natural, but I had never met this kind of love. At the time, I didn't trace it to anything. How sad is that? I just found this man extremely puzzling and extremely lovable. Only years later, when I had already discovered the gospel, did it occur to me that he loved with a love that was beyond him. I just gave you some examples of people who exemplify that. People seem to like me. I honestly don't get it. I'll be frank. Excuse my English here, but I think I'm a prick. So I don't know why people like me. Some people. I don't get it. But I don't know if I fit in this category, if I'm going to be honest. If anything, quite the opposite. You guys, especially here, hear me on the regular lately, going on about this group of people, that group of people, and how horrendous they are. I don't know, but it's inspiring, and I would love to be like that. And I know when I had the taste of grace, it feels like another lifetime now, about 20 years ago, when I first got my calling, when I was in that process, when I had that fervor. I remember others commenting like, wow, how can you adore that person's so-and-so? People were literally in awe. And for me, I was like, whatever, what are you talking about? Yeah, it is what it is. Just doing what you do. Just being Christian, It wasn't something that needed thought or effort or calculation. Just something that you did because it was what it was. So far removed from that. So far removed. As demonstrated by my missing the second calling and my concern for my own well-being over everyone else. All right. The next question. The interviewer says, what happened after this? Bloom later says, when I found myself confronted with perfect happiness, a quite unexpected thing happened. I suddenly discovered that if happiness is aimless, it's unbearable. Say that again. This is quite important, especially in our days of technology, of having everything at our disposal, and yet feeling so unsatisfied, so empty, and being full of nothing but complaints. I suddenly discovered that if happiness is aimless, listless, one of the passions, it's unbearable. How many people, how many famous rich people that have all these people that not only love them, idolize them, literally, off themselves because it's aimless. They've lost their way. It's like the Bible warns. Entering the door, right? Bloom continues. So I decided I would give myself a year to see whether life had any meaning. Hope there it is. He's already down that path now. As an atheist, aimless, listless atheist. It's like, okay, I'm happy. I'd rather be dead. Meanwhile, we have people that are suffering greatly in all kinds of crazy pain. You see Patriotic Christian's video about his prescription cocktail, handfuls of pills per day. When he's having a bad day, he showed a video of that recently. Oh my God. The vomiting and all that. Kitty Lason, poor guy, man. Yet, when he's capable, he's up and about, running around and fighting the good fight with everything that he's got. And he's saving people from themselves with things like, hey, don't kick a man when he's down. Or from over a year ago, don't bite. Don't bite. Don't take the bait. Don't fall for the ensnarement. Don't bite. He moved an entire crowd with his faith and the shout of don't bite, pushing them forward physically. Quite a historical moment, too, by the way, with all kinds of news media set up right there for that ensnarement. Pushed them right through. Glory be to God in all things. So the interviewer, again, continuing this Q&A. The interviewer asks, how did you get out of this aimless happiness? Aimless happiness. Sounds like an oxymoron, but it's unfortunately not only quite common, but all too common, unfortunately. Bloom says, I began to look for meaning in life other than what I could find through purposefulness. Ooh, and this one hit home because I'm quite busy with all these works. I'm overwhelmed, in fact. I can relate. Busy work. The Orthodox clergy, the priests will tell you, they'll warn you. Be careful of the busy work. I get it now. I mean, again, this is why I'm emphasizing in these two readings, beginning to pray in the way of the pilgrim. The process of praying unceasingly. What that looks like, what that is, and the implications surrounding it. Very powerful reads. I encourage everyone to partake in. Bloom continues, studying and making oneself useful for life didn't convince me at all. Boy, can I relate. Career student. All my life up to now had been concentrated on immediate goals, and suddenly these became empty. Went through that right before I went to Greece. Had all these contingency plans in place, had all these preparations and so on and so forth. A CV, everyone's telling me I need to chop up because it's overloaded. I was ready. Get into the world. It took one semester. Everything fell apart. Well, now what? I guess I can't rely on my own imaginations. I have to, I have to turn to God, and that's what I did. Thank God, He sent me to Greece. I felt something immensely dramatic inside myself, Bloom says, and everything around me seemed small and meaningless. Wow. He's describing the despair he had while he was aimless, listless, and without God. Atheist. Everything around me seemed meaningless. Doesn't the Bible say life is like a salt? Life becomes like a salt that loses its savor. Without God, life becomes meaningless. It's not just rhetoric. Okay, sorry. Tech issues. This is why we wouldn't jam microchips into our brains. Let me read that again. Bloom continues in response to that question. How did you get out of this aimless happiness? He says, while I was reading the beginning of St. Mark's Gospel, before I reached the 3rd chapter, I suddenly became aware that on the other side of my desk, there was a presence. How many times have we heard this kind of story from people that have great fervor, these Christians? I saw a presence, I felt a presence, and I was saved from atheism. Phil, for Mormons, has that exact story. I have a similar story myself, ironically. Even though I was technically, arguably born Christian, so to speak. In my early 20s, I haven't been a mass media Mooney all my life. I had been conditioned to not believe, to instinctively knee-jerk reaction gawk at the supernatural. I didn't believe in anything. I wasn't being nasty about it. I was being hateful. I didn't have malice in my heart. I didn't hate God. I just stopped believing because mass media made me think that way, and then therefore made me feel that way. Made me think that all these miracles are stupid, right? Isn't that what they condition us with? And so, dealing with Tai Chi at the time, I was susceptible to the supernatural, but all the wrong kinds. So when I was dealing with that stuff, well, I had the shock of my life, literally. I literally went into shock during that experience, having encountered the supernatural while I was tampering with the spiritual. And from there, I started believing. You better believe I started taking it a lot more seriously. It took a few years. I had to sober up, things like that. I had to forgive myself to allow God in my life. I had to forgive myself first. So overridden with guilt, my nasty life, that I was scared to approach God. And these kinds of things. But yeah. Anyway, God works in mysterious ways. Bloom continues. And the certainty was so strong that it was Christ standing there that it has never left me. Again, we hear this a lot. I would love to make that claim that I had this kind of encounter. To this day, I'm not quite sure what kind of encounter I had. Like I say, I was being ripped towards the light. Almost against my will, but not quite. It was at the point where I surrendered to God, thinking that I was going to die. That happened, and I freaked out and somehow regained control, fought back, and went into shock. Anyway, Bloom says, this was the real turning point. I can relate. Because Christ was alive and I had been in his presence, I could say with certainty that what the gospel said about the crucifixion was true. And the centurion was right when he said, "Truly, he is the Son of God." It was in the light of the resurrection that I could read with certainty the story of the gospel. Now I believe. Now I have open ears. Let me hear. Let me see. Let me knock. Now he's searching. Truly searching. Knowing that everything was true in it because the impossible event of the resurrection was to me more certain than any event in history. And this is what the Orthodox Christians are celebrating this Holy Week. Again, starting with Lazarus Saturday, then Palm Sunday, the entering of Christ into Jerusalem, and then the reading of the events, Holy Monday, well, starting with that Sunday evening, Holy Monday, Holy Tuesday, and then, Wednesday we have the anointment. Mary Magdalene anoints his feet with using her hair with ointments to prepare him. While she's being mocked for doing it because she's a whore by the Jews. History continues. Bloom continues. History, I had to believe. History, I had to believe. Or else, they start yelling at you if you don't parrot everything they say. Evolution, too. I'm supposed to be a biology teacher. Top of my class, literally, not only in grade school, but in the university. I was a fanatic of science, evolution, biology. But when I saw all these contradictions in my own research and how they were pushing stuff like law, and if you even questioned any of it, they treated you like the enemy of the state. And this was the 90s. In the 90s, they were doing that. It's like, man, I can't be teaching these lies. I'm either going to have to be honest and get fired because I'm being honest, or I'm going to do something else. And so I changed my profession. Literature ended up becoming. I did some history for a minute, but that was very demanding and not very promising. Everyone wants to be a history teacher, so I changed it to literature, my next passion. Also very demanding, by the way. Again, history I had to believe. The resurrection I knew for a fact because he had countered it. Seeing is believing. That's why we say come and see. That's why he said come and see. I did not discover, as you see, the gospel beginning with its first message of the Annunciation. And it did not unfold for me as a story which one can believe or disbelieve. It began as an event that left all problems of disbelief behind because it was a direct personal experience. This is a call to action, if you will, or at least a softening of the heart. For those that go on and on, want proof. I've got to wonder, if those people got their proof, what would they say? Would they gawk like I did when I was what we call in the West agnostic, really atheist? Mocking at miracles? If I saw something or heard something, but if I even saw something, I'd write it off. Must be coincidence. I must be crazy. My eyes are playing tricks on me. Or they're trying to measure the supernatural with a ruler, a scale. We carbon date the supernatural. Lord have mercy. Let's get more asinine than that. God have mercy. Pray for these people, man. Pray for them. Talk about the lost goats. Not lost sheep, but lost goats. God have mercy on their souls. Pray for them. They need help. All right, let's move on. The next question the interviewer asks, but you are, so to speak, living in the marketplace. We're talking about his ordination. He became clergy. He was a medical worker as well. We're talking about Anthony Bloom, how he was a medical worker for a while. But with all the things going on, he felt the need to hide the fact that he was clergy. And so he was doing both, but in secret being clergy. And he was also monastic, unmarried. So the interviewer on that says, but you are, so to speak, living in the marketplace. In other words, you're living in the world. You're doing these things, but you're living in the world. Bloom says, I don't think living in the marketplace is any different from living in the wilderness. To be poor financially is in a way much easier than to be poor inwardly. This is where I got confused. I bought into this notion that, well, being poor is romantic. And once I became poor, it was difficult to get out. I've been in poverty for pretty much most of my adult life. After having some very good early beginnings. In my 20s, I had my own business, custom made, sports car, factory ordered, and so on, all the fixings. And only did that not because I always loved that stuff, but people getting into my ear, oh, are you doing this? I was working 100 hours a week. They're like, well, why don't you have anything? I was driving around a 70s beat up car, which I loved, by the way. I loved that thing. In a home that was half built, looked like absolute eyesore. I didn't care. I didn't care about any of that. Wore jeans, shirt, whatever. But yeah, people got in my ear. Well, you're doing this. Well, why don't you, get something? What do you? And then, I'm like, I guess they're right. What? And then I went on a shopping spree. I learned the hard way how that becomes a sickness, this whole purchasing thing, trying to place our happiness in what we own and what we have. The more I got, the more unhappy I became, the more, despondent I became. Not to mention the social issues. Suddenly everyone liked what I had, treating me nice because they liked my things. I became, let's say, paranoid. Like, I remember driving around in my sports car and people were like staring at and I got mad. Like, hey man, what's your problem? What are you staring at? Right? Meanwhile, I've got that custom made sports car with looking like a B-52, all the extra fixings and so on. Of course, I'm gonna be staring at it. But I'm getting mad at people. I can't trust people. I can't have a decent relationship. Females are suddenly, it was a mess. It's bad. So let me read that again. I don't think living in the marketplace is any different from living in the wilderness. To be poor financially is in a way much easier than to be poor inwardly, to have no attachments. And he really gets into that, but the Way of the Pilgrim takes even deeper dive, I think. They're both wonderful. Again, please, the links are in the description and in the chat. Check these readings out. They're life changers, lifesavers for some. All right, he says, this is very difficult to learn and something which happens gradually. From year to year, you really learn to value things, to look at people and see radiant beauty which they possess, without the desire to possess them. I'm reading this, I'm hearing it, and it's bringing me back to that time that I told you about, over 2 decades ago, when I had that taste of grace. Man, was I in a different place. God, do I miss that? God have mercy on my soul. I so yearn to be back in that, but not enough. I'm not putting enough effort in. Back then I was really, really, really invested. To pluck a flower means to take possession of it, and it also means to kill it. We've heard that before. The vow of poverty makes me appreciate things much more. But first of all, one must learn to be free within oneself. There are moments when you must physically absent yourself in order to learn what it means for something or somebody to exist in his own right. You hear that? J Bob. It means we need to, all right, I'm going to read it again for his sake and his followers if they happen to grace my presence. There are moments when you must physically absent yourself in order to learn what it means for something or somebody to exist in his own right. And not just as a mirror of your own emotions. Oof, that one smarts. I can't lie. So, again, he's talking about himself and his experiences, for the record. What he came to realize through the process of developing his relationship with God, an ongoing process. Again, the title of the book is Beginning to Pray for that reason. So often, when we say, I love you, we say it with a huge I and a small u. We use love as a conjunction instead of it being a verb implying action. It's good stuff. Let me read this again. So often when we say I love you, we say it with a huge I and a small u. We use love as a conjunction instead of it being a verb implying action. All right, moving on. The next question. The interviewer says, do you find any difficulty in communicating now? After all, the Christian faith is not something which people can easily or readily understand. Ooh, boy, does that really resonate these days, 21st century, because we're so progressed. Bloom says, what I aim at is to live within a situation and to be totally engrossed in it and yet free from involvement. This is the detachment he mentioned earlier. He's describing it now. He's not saying be a sociopath, be uncaring, be detached from the world because you don't care. He's describing, well, let's see, let me read it again. On detachment, he says, what I aim at is to live within a situation and to be totally engrossed in it, yet free from involvement. Think about that for a minute. Let's move on. The basic thing is that I never ask myself what the result of my action will be. That is God's concern. Wow. All you can do is be at every single moment as true as you can with all the power in your being. Be as true as you can with all the power in your being, and then leave it to God to use you, even despite yourself. Ouch. Fanar, Patriot, NATO, U.S. Department of Defense. Even despite yourself. If people want to ridicule me, that's fine. But if it produces a spark in them and we can talk, then it means we are really talking about something which concerns us deeply. Wow. That is the fruits of this heart, the spirit. This is what happens. This is the kind of interaction you have with people. You can have a conversation with a Muslim who wants you dead. He says all kinds of blasphemies and ugly things to you personally. Because you see only the beautiful thing, God's creation. And within that, you can see a deep yearning. Might be buried deep, but you can see the spark. And that's what you speak to, what you set out to have a dialogue with, regardless of their behavior or regardless of what happens afterward. Even if you die, it means nothing. What matters is what you live for and what you died for. Amen. Let's talk about death. Let's bring it back to that. In Greek, it's called the thanato. Basically, we say, the word escapes me. The mortality. And this is interesting. This part that I'm going to read, the interviewer asks Bloom, was there anything in particular which struck out about England when you came here? So he says some things and then he concludes with this. So let me tell you the backdrop, what's going on. He's talking about a story where, again, he's clergy. Tech issue, sorry. So he visited a home where someone had passed. Granny had passed. And the family was all there. He had come, but the children were sent outside. And he's asking them what's going on. And the parents are saying, well, we don't want them to be horrified at the sight of death. We don't want them to see death. We don't want them to get scarred by death. And he refused to remain. Anthony Bloom refused to remain unless they brought the children back in. Why? Because he wanted to haunt them? No. Like Hollywood does, Jewish Hollywood? No. Disney? No. He's not trying to haunt them. He's not trying to scar them for life, give them nightmares. No. So what happens? Some of you might protest. I personally, to be honest, I find myself these days struggling with mortality, with the corpse. But at any rate, so this is what happens. And those of you who might be against his approach, please open your heart and take a listen here. Listen to what he has to say. We went up to the room where Granny was lying. He's talking about now the children. They brought them up. We stood beside the bed in silence for a while. Then one of the children said, "How beautiful Granny looks." Death was no longer something frightening, something to be dreaded. All right, that's all I'm going to read today from beginning to pray. I might continue doing these readings. I had this thought for Holy Week. I was going to read one chapter from The Way of the Pilgrim per day, starting with Lazarus Saturday, but that was quite ambitious. Let's see, an hour and a half into this. There's a lot I want to cover from this reading too. Maybe that's enough. Maybe we'll save this for a future project. That's enough for that. So, listen, people. Keep your news. Keep it real. Be honest with yourself first and foremost. If you're emphasizing leprechauns and magic bunnies with pooping rainbow-colored eggs, or a red communist Santa and a pagan Christmas tree, that's all about commerce, worldly treasures, you may have lost your way. Just put it out there. Even the communist Chinese celebrate Xmas. Put in perspective. Even they celebrate Xmas. The biggest holiday, the biggest Christian holiday, Pascha, the resurrection, what it's all about. Not even a peep. Sound familiar, by the way? Outside of the Catholics, how big is Easter for you? All right. I mean, there's a lot. There was so much. I've got over a dozen tabs that I keep collecting. I want to do a stream, but like I said, I was trying to keep my self-preservation. I'm trying to keep myself focused spiritually, despite all the wow. I might just leave it and cover it at a future date. I might not. I don't know. I mean, World War III. Listen, again, Bloom puts it perfectly. Don't concern yourselves with this. First and foremost, every day, all day long, keep your news. Pray unceasingly. Remain centered on Christ, regardless. All right. I think I'm just going to leave it at that. I think that's the best thing to do. All right. For my fellow Orthodox Christians, may you have a good Holy Week, a good resurrection. For those who just celebrated Easter, Christ is risen. Jesus Christ is already victorious. Matthew 24. This too shall come to pass. Blessed are those who endure to the end. God bless you all. God willing, I'll see you on the flip side. Take care.
I see.